Okay, for the sake of the recording, today is Tuesday, January the 20th, our board meeting for the Historical Society meeting. Our board meeting for the Historical Society meeting. Okay. I'm getting my tongue going here this morning. So welcome everybody. Thanks for joining and glad we could accommodate being a little earlier in the day. So Theresa isn't joining at 2 a.m. How about that? So welcome. I'm going to walk us through on slides just to make sure so we've got something we can follow along as we talk, but I shared the agenda with you. There's just a couple short items in addition that I'm gonna share with us. Let me get the screen going here. Can you all see the slide now? Yeah. Okay. Great.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who knows what that photo is?
That's the bowling alley,
Yeah. So yes, they had a bowling alley
isn't it?
back then. What's
Like a
that?
Well, of course, that's now the 10 pin
pin.
cottage.
The Tin Pin Cottage. Yeah. Yeah. That's one of the things I don't think gets pointed out very often. So I try to point it out to visitors and say, look at the railing of that house. What do you think those are? They're bowling pins, right? Yeah, it's
Mhm.
pretty cool. Amanda, is it Mandy? Mandy and Steve Young. I don't see too often up in Beersheba, but that's their place. I think their daughter, Mary Neely, comes probably a little more often than they do, to be honest. So, okay. I've been hunting through photos like this for some things we're going to talk about later, but that's a pretty cool one there, I think. Just a reminder of our mission, because I'm going to refer back to this a couple times today because of some of the things we've got in the works, especially these highlighted words that you see there. You'll see why shortly. So on the agenda front, we'll just hopefully get an approval for our meeting minutes. We'll talk about the fact that we've had our vacancy on the board and where that's going. We've got the new logo to share with you and talk about how that came about. And we'd like to shift into now going into the website launch, and we'll talk a bit about what that involves and how we go about it. And then our big thing is if we could at least get our topics for the summer programs today settled, that would be great. And then we can get further details on that. I'd like to kind of wrap up getting all the summer stuff settled by end of March if we can. And then a few notes from the executive committee. So if you're not aware on the way our bylaws sit, the executive committee is the president, secretary, and treasurer. So Sylvia and Elizabeth and I met last week and got some things to share with you on that regard. So to get going, you received the minutes. Thank you, Elizabeth, for those. And so I would like to go ahead and ask for someone to make a motion to approve, if anyone willing to do that.
So move.
Okay. Any second?
I second
I
it.
second it.
Okay, great. Lots of seconds. That's great. Any questions about those that we haven't addressed that you may have had once you saw those minutes, just to be clear? Okay, so all in favor, say aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. All righty. We've got an official record there in our minutes. And again, I really appreciate Elizabeth, you having helping keep us on the detail of that. I try to write things as I go along because that's just the way my brain works. But having that official document is really good because I know it's helpful for me to be able to look back and say, what did we talk about? And, what did we say? It's easy to forget. I forget from day to day these lately. So. Board vacancy. So as you may recall, Nancy Rogers was part of our new class that came in August. Nancy needed to bow out for various reasons. And so the executive committee, we talked about and said, yeah, we feel it's best to fill the role if we can versus leaving one less board position for the moment. So we first talked to Beth Adams because on our list of folks we had recommended, Beth was the next of those. I had just emailed back and forth with Beth, and she appreciated being asked, but she has her hand in a few too many boards at the moment, I think, is sort of where she was coming from, but appreciated being considered. Next on our list was Rand Batson. And I think a lot of us talked about Rand because we know he's got some really good connections with local residents. He's done various projects with the town council, some construction stuff. He has his own construction business. And so I did reach out to Rand and had a really great conversation with him the other day about a number of things, but this being one. And he has agreed to join us on the board. I only asked him to fill the rest of this year at the moment. And then we'll see in the summer if he's willing to fill out the rest of that term. So that we're all on 3-year terms. So if he can do that, that'll be great. But for the moment, we at least get someone in that can keep part of our board. And I think he'll bring some great perspective. In fact, he and I talked a lot about what are some ways maybe we can fill that void we've been talking about of how do we connect more with the local community, those of us that aren't really from Beersheba, so to speak. And he had some good thoughts on that, which I'll bring around later. We also talked about some of the things that come up where one part of the community is saying, hey, we ought to do this, and another group saying this, and blah, blah, blah. And so, and I think I've mentioned this to a couple of you all, what if we had some more group conversations with people who have an investment? You know, the market, of course, is a big one. Maybe the library, us, the town council, the community center. We all have some things we'd all like to see, and maybe it's better that we talk more about those things. So he and I had a good conversation about that idea, and we can always revisit that as well. So bottom line, we'll have Rand joining. This was too close to the date that I talked to him for him to be able to commit today, but he's got the other board meeting dates on his calendar. Let me ask, is there anyone that doesn't know Rand? Sorry.
No.
Okay.
Real quick, I was just gonna, in my past board experience, the board has always voted to accept the resignation of a board member. Do we need to do that with Nancy Rogers?
I'm thinking back to the bylaws, because I reviewed them when this came up. I don't know that it said we had to vote to accept it, but let me pull them up real quick. Aaron, that's a good question.
It allows it to go into the minutes so we know exactly who is on the board, but it's just a technicality.
No, that's a good question. See if I can get this document pulled over to where you all can see what I'm looking at. Having problems grabbing stuff here. Okay, can you see this document?
Mhm.
Okay, so I'm going to scroll down. I believe it's any director of any class can be removed with or without cause. We're not talking about removal. So
Well,
they,
4-4 says directors may resign at any time on written notice to the president or the secretary.
Okay, yeah.
But I think we could, in the minutes, just acknowledge that she's leaving per Aaron's point. It's good to have it recorded.
that is a good point, and I don't
And
recall.
also look at 4.5. It says we need to fill it for the unexpired term by a majority vote of the board. So maybe we should go ahead and take a vote now that we agree that Rand is the candidate.
Exactly right. Yeah, because we haven't gone to that route yet. That was just the three of us that talked about that. So I will make a motion that we accept Rand as filling the vacancy currently on the board. Is there
Second,
okay? Any conversation or further comments, questions about that? And I think everyone said they have met Rand. Is that correct? So you know who he is? Okay. All right. So all of in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. Thank you, Aaron, for bringing that up. It's a good point. I try to look back at these, but don't always retain everything. So, and I sent you all a copy of the bylaws and the charter. Hopefully you still have that. I don't know if I mentioned this last time, but we discovered in going to Citizens Bank that the one thing that is in our safe deposit box, which we didn't know, are the original copies of the bylaws and the certificate of exemption and the EIN number that was approved, et cetera. So we know we have official documentation in its original form there. Okay, let's move on. So our logo. So as you know, we've been working on this. I think, Elizabeth, it's been about a year, hasn't it? And it's one of those things you start off and then you realize you need to think about things in many different ways and from different perspectives. And so we pulled in a couple of you from the board. Oh, Stephanie's the other one we don't have right now. Oh, we're missing two people. Okay, sorry. So Stephanie and Teresa were two that we were trying to pick a couple people just to bounce things off of on the board. And then we did the same with some folks outside of the board as well and got their perspective as we went along, because as you look at something 500 times, you fail to see from another perspective after a while. So that was very helpful. As you can see on this page, logos can be anything and everything. But bottom line, it's the thing that when somebody doesn't know you and they see it, that they automatically start to get a sense of who you are or should. And if it doesn't lead them in the right direction, then your brand is not very strong or they don't get a sense of who you are. For instance, if you look at the one in the middle for Newport Beach, what does that say to you about Newport Beach?
They like yachting.
They like yachting. Yeah, it's very, very focused on the Mariner side, and I mean, just the fact that it's a Newport Beach, you obviously know it's on the coast, et cetera. Versus one like down here, Johnson County. Excuse me, I'm going to move this over. What does that say to you about Johnson County?
It's very rural.
Rural community, maybe farming, et cetera. So you want that logo to speak to who you are, and as quickly as possible to people who don't know you. So we worked to make sure that our logo did align with our mission, which I mentioned earlier, and there's some key words in there about our preservation of history, our attention to helping support the community and culture of Beersheba Springs. Um, we were trying to look for it to reflect local history, but also be future facing because it's a live organization. We're still trying to keep history alive, educate others, make it be one of the things we understand about ourselves going forward, but also not be too modern in terms of future facing. In fact, some of the feedback we got on our earlier versions was that it didn't have enough of a rustic quality to reflect perhaps Bersheba's history. So we tried to go a little more that direction and also somehow help it make feel more personal, not too cold or modern or whatever words you might use on that regard. But then a big thing that Elizabeth and I talked a lot about was usability. So if you're going to use your logo in different ways, it needs to work in different sizes, in different media, be it print or online. And if it's too detailed, then you get to a small size, like on a letterhead or something, and you really can't see what it is, right? If you've got too much detail. So we were trying to balance all that as well, and we worked with Debbie Duggar, who has a company called Deb's Webs. And she was a great consultant as well because she does a lot of logo design and brought to us different ways of thinking. Some that we totally said, no, that's not us. Go away. But other things that started to resonate with us. So all that considered, here is our new logo. And some things that you'll recognize, and I know Sanford, you pointed this out when we talked about using this image, is that this is the library building. We didn't choose it because it's a library, but for a couple of reasons. One is it represents a little of that rustic and the type of architecture we see around Beersheba and its history, but also it's part of the community. It's a central part of our community in Beersheba. Um, we went with the drawing because it's one from one of our own artists, Monty Wanamaker, drew this. And so it pulls in something that's very real to the culture, if you will, of the community. Hearkening to the history, but hopefully saying in big words, this is a living organization as well. So that is what we have for you. And I'd like to see if there are any questions. Now, in future, we can always play with the logo more. It can always morph in time. It's not a foundation forever, but we're going to start with this one. Um, Questions,
Andrew,
comments? Yeah.
I've got two things. One, the picking the date 1839, I get confused. Maybe that's the date the entity, the town was actually founded. But
Yeah.
two, the drawing's great, but if you get it small, it's not going to look like much. Is there a proposed kind of more like a line art version of the library that would be used when the rendering is so small that the sketch doesn't look like anything but a blob?
We have played around with it in different sizes, and we did find it was pretty distinct still.
Hmm.
And Elizabeth, I'll let you anything you want to say, but we did look at different types of drawings. So Debbie took this and she made basically an outline kind of, I think, which might be what you're referring to. We tried it in different colors, et cetera. But we found that I think we were pretty comfortable with the clarity of this in different
Hmm.
sizes.
Does it render well in black and white? And specifically, it looks to me like if you're printing this on a laser printer, you're going to lay down a lot of toner, which I always try to avoid because I'm cheap and try to be environmentally friendly.
Yeah.
So is there a rendition maybe that would be kind of, for lack of a better phrase, toner friendly?
I think we could do that easily. We don't have a
Hmm.
file right now, but we played
But
around with
but
it in
but you
strictly black
could.
and white version. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, yeah, because it'd be nice because the reality is most of the time people aren't going to fetch the beautiful color letterhead from their box of letterhead and handwrite a note to somebody. Most of the time, they're going to be, they're going to be printing on a black and white laser printer. So, you want to
Absolutely.
make sure that that usage, which is going to be 99% of the usage, works well.
Well, I mean, to date, we're not really using the logo that way. We don't have letterhead, so to speak.
But I mean, any communication or, or if somebody prints a page that has a logo on it, it's kind of a bummer when places render web pages with big black bars on it. And then if you try to print it, you use like 50 pages of toner just to print the page. So I find myself taking a screenshot excluding the uh, sorry, incoming call, excluding the big black graphic area. And this isn't all that dark. I'm not trying to totally bash it, but it's nice if there's a toner friendly version that can be used. So anyway, that's my thought.
Okay,
I
I'm
think
making a
that's a
note here,
good
John.
suggestion, John. We can ask Deb, and she can probably give us a version. She sent us. I'm not technically savvy enough to know. She sent us several different versions, and what we told her we wanted was a logo that would work as a letterhead at the top of a traditional piece of letter size paper, that would work on a poster that you might hang that's larger in the market to advertise events, and that we could also scale up and perhaps make a sign on the museum. So we had kind of three scenarios. We did test it as a small logo at the top of a letterhead, and it still looked good, even in the small size. So that addresses your first comment, but I think your second one's good. Let us ask Deb about that, how that might reproduce in black and white, and like you said, a toner friendly. I think we
Okay.
probably got an answer to that. I think that's a good
Yeah.
comment.
Yeah. Thanks, Elizabeth.
We did go this color route for a true branding choice. I think part of what Elizabeth and I talked about was what does it mean for us to be this organization in the community we're in, near the parks we're with, et cetera. And so the green was purposeful in that fashion because we actually first started off trying to focus more on environment. We had a hemlock tree because those were kind of, valuable to our community and we're at danger at a point, et cetera. And so the green was very purposeful in that regard. And then we played around with black and white as well as the sepia tone for the cabin. And the sepia tone lends more toward the rustic, if you will, quality of what a log structure might be, et cetera. So that's part of why the color scheme. Good thoughts.
I think it looks wonderful. I like it very much.
Good, great, excellent. Well, we'll go ahead and we've got the files. If what I'd like to do is just make sure if we use it somewhere that we as a board know that and have approved it rather than just throwing it around. So if you need a file to do something with, as long as it's Birchville Historical Society business, that's cool. This is not a city logo. The city has its own logo that I don't know how official it is, but what the county created that you've seen on signs in Beersheba. It's not a park logo, et cetera. So it's specific to our organization as far as the direction of it. Yeah. Okay, well let's move on. So we have been talking about getting our website going, and now with this branding decision having been put in play, it helps us think a little bit more about what a look and feel might be for a website. Not that we're saying that those are going to be the colors or anything else, but it needs to align in some fashion. So I've shared with you all in the past a little bit about the process. I've done website work for various organizations, and typically you start with what is your plan? What is your content, et cetera else? And we've talked about this, and you gave feedback on the questionnaire as to what you think the website needs to be and do. So we have that as a starting point, as well as anything we have gleaned otherwise. And then you move from that phase into actual design and development, and work with someone with that expertise, test it, make sure it works fine, and then get it out there. And it's a matter of maintaining that, updating it, and ensuring it continues to work well. So I tell you that share those phases because where we need to begin is really getting a better handle on what is all our content, what do we want to make sure is included, et cetera. So I'm recommending we use a standing committee for this, and have a couple members of the board be a part of that, but also some members of our, we'll call it membership, join in that as well, because we want to keep that perspective of people who aren't necessarily all the time in the midst of our business to say, what do they want to look for? What do they want to see? What do they need to be able to do on our website? And so I'm going to recommend a moment that we take a motion on that. The timeline business I put here just to give a true sense, because you can create a website in a day if you want to, right? But we have a lot more thought behind this as an organization versus, like my Andrew Bowen website or whatever it might be. And the timing depends on a lot of factors. How complex is the site? How many pages? How quickly can we get feedback between us as well as with the designer done? And how fast we approve and say we're all ready to go forward. I would say it's a minimum of 6 to 8 weeks, but it's more realistically probably going to be a good 4 to 6 months and I'm being just trying to give a wide window on this because it takes time and none of us are like full-time employees of the Historical Society. So it will take time to go between us, get things settled and move forward. These costs I'm putting here are based on someone that I'm going to recommend in a moment that we work with. WordPress is one of the most widely used content management systems in terms of websites today. It's very user-friendly, so that it's one of those things that once we have a site, you can go in and manage it. We can go change that content at any time. We can update it at will, which John and I do on the current one, but it's got very great limitations, as you know, in terms of the layout, the template, et cetera. Any designer is going to add more to that cost based on some options like e-commerce. And e-commerce refers to the ability to accept donations, people to purchase things, whatever that might involve that kind of transactional activity, as well as any further customization. Now, we may or may not need custom graphics. We may just say, oh, we're going to use X photo for this. But if you have the designer create custom graphics, of course, that's a bigger amount of work for them and therefore a little bit more charge too. I think this is a good in the realm kind of amount. As far as my experience goes, we could say you could probably get somebody to do it for less, but they're not going to give you endless number of hours. And that's a determination by the designer. John has mentioned someone he has worked with and knows of, and then I have somebody that I'm recommending. The reason my recommendation is what it is that we've been working with this designer developer for a year on the logo. She knows us. She knows us well now after all this work, and of course has that branding vision that we have created with the logo so far. This is Debbie. And she's also doing a site for another organization my partner is working with. And I've been seeing that she doesn't care. She'll keep doing calls, keep talking they've been working on it for a year now, and I don't think her price has changed. So that flexibility is really nice versus if you get into an hourly situation or something. But I'm not saying we have to go with this individual, but my recommendation is if we've already got that relationship and it's somebody that knows us, it can really be beneficial as opposed to getting that mindset in front of someone else. So 2 motions here, basically. One is that we go forward and approve setting up a standing committee and starting the project, and another to determine if we want to go with Debbie or do a further search into designers. So let me start with the first one. I'm making a motion that we begin the website project and we appoint a standing committee to start the research and planning on that. Is there anyone who will second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Questions, comments about that? Is it clear? Let me ask that because it's a lot.
Yeah, so why a standing committee which, runs in perpetuity rather than an ad hoc committee for a certain period of time?
I may be using the wrong term, Aaron. I think of a standing committee as an ad hoc, as a one that doesn't go on forever. I'm sorry. You're right. It should be, what is the term for that kind?
Or task force could be,
Task force.
maybe the bylaws will tell us what this
I think it provides for ad hoc if you want.
does it.
I remember it coming up.
Standing
committee
committees.
from time to time. Yeah, that doesn't really define it much, but well, perhaps we should say project committee or task force. Would that be better to clarify?
Okay. Do we need a move to amend the motion?
Yes, I amend the motion to read that we appoint a project, I'd like to call it a project committee, website project committee for the
Right, so
purpose of
I will move to amend the motion
okay.
to redo the wording to a, I don't know, ad hoc committee or project task.
Okay. Okay.
Is that if we get a second on the motion to amend the motion, then we can discuss
Well,
it further,
How
right?
about if we just ditch the first motion and start over really quick?
Pretend I never said anything.
Well, we seconded it, so we at least have to
We
vote it
never
down,
voted
right?
on it, so let's just ditch it.
Is that okay, Aaron?
I don't know. We seconded. I think we have to vote it down.
Okay.
No?
But we didn't ever vote it in. It was my silly thinking. I'm kind of with John. Let's just right. I seconded
Well,
it,
we can
but we didn't
just
vote it.
we can just vote on it really quick and
Yeah.
vote it down, and then we'll start over.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, Andrew, you want
So
to call a vote?
all in favor of the standing committee?
It's not a standing committee now. It's a
All
project.
opposed?
task
Well, we're
force.
voting
All
on
in
it.
favor of the first motion.
Yeah.
That's what
Nay.
Nay, nay, nay,
Nay,
nay,
nay,
nay,
nay.
Okay.
nay, nay.
That's gone. So shall I make the new motion? Okay. I move that we create a website project committee to begin the planning and discovery phase for our new website.
I
Any
second.
second?
I'll
Okay.
second.
Okay. Discussion.
Could you rephrase the name of that for me one more time so I have it correct in the minutes?
I'm calling it website project committee.
Okay, got it.
I'm going to write that down here too. Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay. So, on the role of the designer, I move that we work with Deb's Webs on this. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Discussion. Comments. Okay. All in
Actually,
favor?
was the estimate provided? Is that a fixed estimate, or is it good faith? And
That's
can
good.
you?
Good point, John. The 1,500 is the base estimate. There will be, I originally in my discussion with Debbie, she said like 200 to 300 more for the e-commerce and any custom graphic stuff.
Okay, that's reasonable.
So maybe if it were online, joining as a member, or making a donation, we'd be getting close to about 2,000, right?
At the very most.
At the very most, okay.
Yeah,
I mean, it sounded 1,500 sounded small to me, but
And she's going to maintenance and support. Is she going to host it, or did that come up? Or
this includes her setting up hosting. I don't think we talked about
yeah,
exactly.
because we still have free hosting at DreamHost, and we can leave it there.
We can
And
leave it
then,
there. Okay.
and of course, she can manage it. We can give her an account to manage it.
Okay. We could
Yeah,
do that. Yeah.
because we get free hosting because this company generously hosts nonprofits for free,
Okay.
which is kind of nice.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay. Any other discussion on that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I
Any
Aye.
opposed? Okay. All right, I'm going to move us through. So 2026 programs, or we can call them events, actually, programs, events, because we talked about more of a variety of options in this list. This is the list that we came out of a few months ago. And are there other things that anyone wants to have considered before we talk about this list and narrow it down? Is there anything that's come to you since?
I have something to add. I had actually talked to a friend who has Bershba connections, who is a historian and raconteur, and is very entertaining as well. Who has connections with Bershba going way back, and to see if he would come do a talk and at one of our programs, and he said that he would, and he suggested having one doing the talk that relates to, I think he called it the Dahlgren mystique or mystery or something.
Mister?
Because, the book that Herschel Gower wrote about Charles Dahlgren, and we have a Dahlgren Avenue,
Right.
and so, but, so anyway, and his name is Eugene Ham, and he said he would do that. So I wanted to add that on.
Is it HAM?
HAM, 1M, yes.
Okay. Cool. That sounds interesting. Yeah.
And I heard when you look at number 3 here, live event, historical home cemetery, at this past Sunday at Grace Church, or in the evening that we had the discussion, and apparently 250 years of this the USA, so
Yes,
250-year celebration. The city has approached Gene. John, what's Gene's last name?
Garrett?
Garrett.
Yes, Garrett. Gene Garrett, to help with, they're gonna do a live event like that. Talk about people in the cemetery, have them dressed like from that time. And they're gonna choose like 3 or 4 people, some from Grace's Chapel Cemetery, and then some from Armstead Cemetery. So
Oh, okay.
that might be something we can work with them then as a historical society when it comes to that. I mean, when I hear more, I'm happy to share, but that's just what I heard 2 days ago.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, by the way, I should clarify one thing you don't see here that I talked about before was regarding the 250th anniversary, the state museum has a display that they're sending around the state, and I put our name as quick as possible to see if we might get it, and they had already filled up the 2026 dates. So they asked if we want to have it in 2027. I said, well, we'll come back to you about that, but because the big year is 2026, right, for the 250th semi-quincentennial, I think is the full word for 250. So that's good to hear, Sylvia. That's interesting. And yeah, I'm actually doing another webinar next week about cemetery programs. This would be a 4th one that I've done. So I've captured some really good notes about ways to do this. But I think working with the city on it might be kind of cool. And with Gene. Yeah. Thank you.
Sure.
Is there anything else we haven't captured here before we talk the list? Okay. So let's just walk down. Here's what I'd like to do is make sure these are clear. I'll just walk down them and we can chat about each one if we need to. And then I'd like you to think of what are your top three, and you're going to vote. And we're going to see if that leads us to any kind of priorities coming out versus just advocating verbally. So the first one goes back to something I proposed a year and a half ago, where we would celebrate Beersheba painters and other artists, possibly with writers like Leonard Tate, in a program where we perhaps display their art, have it talked about, or have experts talk about their art, etc. The second is it's not really one program, so this is a little hard, but oral history is a thing that a lot of history organizations are focusing on now because it's so easy to lose information because people who have that oral history of knowledge of passing down don't always share it outright. And so how do we capture that? In fact, one of the questions you all asked to be put in the survey was about, do you have stories that you're willing to share and tell about Beersheba? So this program, not sure exactly how it might look, but that's the idea with oral history is how can we bring that alive and share it amongst the community? And then, as you were just saying, Sylvia, this live event idea could be a number of things. It could be one historic home that gets opened and we have tours and people learn about it, et cetera. It could be a few that people walk through, could have somebody in period costume talking as if they're a character from that time, telling stories, history, et cetera. Very different kind of live event from a program. Savage Golf Park update came up, and where we see, can we have a ranger or Aaron or someone share an update of what's going on? Perhaps it's done on the property. Perhaps we get to walk part of the property or hayride or something and get a sense of what the timeline's looking like and what kind of work's going to be done, et cetera, along with that. And stop me if I'm not representing somebody's idea well. I just wanted to give us a sense of these. Felix Grundy, way to learn about the namesake for our county. Elizabeth had seen this biographer, Rod Heller. Idea was, could we get a hold of Rod or somebody else that could really talk about, give us an overview sense of Grundy County's history and Felix's significance with that. This is similar to number three. Perhaps it's just, and I know we have a neighborhood here in Houston that does this where like usually for a holiday or something, but you could have different things going on the porches. You go from porch to porch, be it food, entertainment, etc., and maybe conclude your tour at the museum. We highlight something in the museum or just have beverages and a closing gathering there. Trivia night. So everybody, I think, knows what a trivia night is, but it could be, we could find a location like community center or something and do trivia games and enjoy, it's basically a social kind of evening, but people can learn some history along the way with the trivia, perhaps. I shared with you all last time a page that showed original drawings of what the Armfield cottages were before time changed them, and maybe a program around what was the architecture, how were they built, why were they built the way they were, etc. And then we just heard about these two. So the Dahlgren piece and then what the city may be doing working with Gene. Yeah. So I'm going to go down the list, and if you'll tell me if this is one of your top three, and I'm just going to get a sense of how many are thinking one way or another. And we can see if that helps us choose some priority options. So first one, worship of artists and writers. Tell me if this is one of your top three. Anybody? Aaron? Okay.
Yeah, I think that sounds great. I'm in.
Okay. And it's one of mine, so I'm going to put myself in there. Oral history. Anybody? For Sylvia? Okay. That it?
Three is hard.
Number three. Yeah, there's a lot
No,
of
I
different
mean,
things going on here.
no. I mean, only choosing three is very
only
hard.
choosing three. Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's true. So number three, the live event idea, which has a few different capabilities, how it might work, but the idea of that kind of event. Who is interested in that? I'm putting myself in on that one.
could the live event, could number 3 and number 6 be kind of the same?
Mhm.
Because it is the home tour, you go from house to house. It's kind of, to me, it seems,
Mhm.
Should we
That's
talk
my
about that
question.
idea as one option, perhaps, and then it
yes,
morphs to
that 3
Mhm.
and 6 really are one.
okay, let's
I
maybe
like
put
this
that.
one if we partner with the city, so it kind of cuts the labor involved in us pulling it off.
Oh, really? Okay.
Hmm.
So I'm gonna
Yeah.
put I'm in on this one. Is there anybody else on number 3?
Um,
Sylvia, Elizabeth,
Well,
and
who would be the person in period clothing?
well, I don't know, John.
I guess some board members.
It would be you.
Well, it won't be me.
And therein, I think is a big, is this feasible kind of question,
Yeah.
right? Who's going to volunteer to do it? I'm with you.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, maybe it
But
doesn't have to be
but
period clothing.
I know if we do that with the city gonna have people in clothing. That's what Garrett said. I mean, at this point, she was just approached
Oh,
about it.
aren't you talking
But
about number 9?
yeah, number 9, that
Oh,
all
well,
goes
that's
together,
okay.
I
That's
think.
fine. Okay.
Kind of.
it does all mush together. Yeah.
Yeah, when I voted for it, I was thinking it was kind of number 9, working with the
Mhm.
city, I guess. You're
Oh,
right.
Right.
You've added that to
So
the slide. Okay.
well, that's a cemetery thing, it sounds like to me, right?
That
Versus,
cemetery, but when you do the cemetery, we can have maybe 1 or 2 houses. Maybe you find some people. It would be great if they're more local because if I talk history, it's like that doesn't come across right. I don't have the right accent for that.
okay, if I may recommend, let's talk about number 9 as a cemetery event versus a home event, and maybe that'll get a sense of who's leaning what direction. Would that be okay?
Yeah, let me mention on 9, you probably want the Hunterwater Cemetery in there as well.
Sure, yeah. Yeah.
I know Jean just said it was talked about Grace and Armfield. That's what Jean said she was approached. So
Well, I'm gonna put
if
3.
it's
We'll
city.
see what happens. Yeah. Okay. All right, let me back up then. So we did number 3. Let's go to number 4, the Savage Golf Park update. Who's got that on their top 3?
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4.
5.
Oh, John?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
I go there too.
Oh, and Sylvia. Okay.
And I should have said this earlier, but also it could involve someone from the state, not just, I don't mean just, not only a ranger.
Yeah. Okay. Good point.
I just want to mention I can't imagine that the state would allow a hayride in the park. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
Just an idea.
liability being what it is these days, ain't no way that's gonna happen.
That's right. Okay. Well, so we'll just say somehow going through the property, maybe. All right. Number 5 about Felix Grundy in the county history. Anyone have that on their list? So Elizabeth
Yeah.
and Aaron?
John?
Elizabeth, I know you were working on this. I found earlier a few potential phone numbers for Rod Heller.
Well, if we vote and we want to pursue this, let me know. I did look back, and the guy I had talked to was the head of that Theresa knew, that was the head of the like Tennessee or Williamson County
Oh, Rick
Historical
Warwick.
Society. Yeah, thanks. That's his
Yeah.
name. I couldn't remember it all of a sudden, and he is the one I reached out to, and he gave me contact information that didn't work. So I hope Rod is still around. But Aaron, if you found some new stuff and we want to pursue it, I'm happy to try with your new contact stuff. That's great.
Okay. So I counted 3 for the county one. So Elizabeth, was it Aaron and John?
Yeah,
Correct?
John's
Okay.
in.
Okay. Trivia night.
I'm out of votes, so I can't. I already used them 3.
Okay.
I mean, 3
All
is not
right.
enough.
Architectural history of the Armfield cottages.
Yes.
1,
I
2.
like that one.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
I don't think I've used 2 of mine, I think, already. Okay. So 2. Dahlgren mystery.
I think you had 3, didn't you? Or did
yeah,
you?
yeah. Put me down for architectural history.
I think you
Okay.
had 3.
Dahlgren.
Yeah, he
Well, I
was
introduced it, so
fascinating.
I'll
I
vote for that one.
I just looked him up. It looks like he'd do a really fascinating presentation.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
you found something about Eugene?
Oh yeah.
Oh
Oh,
yeah,
mysteries are great. Count me for that. I think that's
yeah.
my third.
I'm not
He
sure what
sounds
he's
like a
got in
really
mind.
wonderful storyteller.
Oh yeah, you're going to be entertained. Yeah.
Hey, quick question. I hate to even bring this up. Was Dahlgren one of the street signs that Bill Howell wanted to get rid of?
It was mainly
Yes,
Armfield, but
yes.
Yeah, but
Mainly our, but
Dahlgren
Yes.
Dahlgren
too.
was a part of all that.
No, it's
yeah,
Dahlgren.
Dahlgren
Well,
was spring
Mhm.
before. Is that
It was
right?
Dahlgren.
Okay. Well, we might think about that if that ends up being one of the top ones. What to do about that?
Okay, so finally, the event we just heard about that potentially will be a joint project with the city, dealing with cemetery history, etc.
You know, on that one, I think if it happens, we should just jump on it and just be part of it.
Well, I'm putting my last vote is going there, so we'll
I
see.
Yeah,
agree.
Andrew, my vote can get moved there, away from 3 and down to that, doing that with the city.
Oh, okay.
I agree on that. Mine too. Just easier.
Okay. Okay, so at the moment, the biggest uh advocacy is around the Savage Golf Park update. Cool. And then we have a tie between Felix Grundy, architectural history, a Dahlgren mystery, and the cemetery deal. So what I'm going to recommend, just to simplify things a little bit, is why don't I take off the things that have less than 3? Or do you all feel any angst about that?
I would just say that a lot of us like the idea of a home tour, but it seems separate from our regular program. We could include it. We've often had cocktails at someone's house afterwards, after programs. You know, we could there are other ways to open up our houses or do it around a holiday.
Well, that's a good point, Aaron. Perhaps we move our receptions around
Hmm.
and we go to I know the Papels would be happy to do it. I have a feeling if Joe Fosnock was in town, he wouldn't mind at Turner Cottage, and some of those that have that significance of the local history. Okay, so I'm going to put a note here that says consider homes for post-program receptions. Does that help? Okay. So, but not as for the moment, maybe not as a separate program, but we get the idea going in cooperation. So we'll hold on this and this and trivia night. Trivia night got no traction. Let's see. Okay.
Oh, no, great idea.
You know, it's one of those things. Have y'all ever gone to Hank's in Tracy City for their trivia night? It's a blast. It is so much fun, but you got to be willing to just put yourself out there, right? You know, and if you mess up, you mess up. If you don't get the right thing, who cares, right? I mean, I think some people are like, "Oh my gosh, I don't know all that stuff." Well, it's okay. It's a learning experience, right? Okay, so is is there anyone who would not want to go ahead and say Savage Golf Park update is one of the things we want to pursue this year? Is that okay that we put that on our priority list?
Yes, I think that's good. I think there are a lot of
yes.
people wondering about, I for one, like, because I know there are, there's photos and drawings of the planned buildings in there and where they're going to be, and we
Yeah.
could have that somebody that could show us all that. I think would be great, and I think a person that could coordinate and work with that would be Ned Murray, who is the director of the Friends of the South Cumberland. And also Aaron would be good to work with that associated with the parks. And so I think that would be really one that might be also something that could pull in more of the community. So it might be good that we might be able to use a community center like we did a couple of times, be able to have audio visual things in there,
Yeah.
a little easier to do than it is at the church.
Sure. Yeah, I think,
Yeah.
Theresa, if I recall, that was one of your thoughts about doing that, is we might get more interest from our local folks around that topic.
Yeah, I mean, it ties into our mission of community, and
Mhm.
somewhere there's bound to be an aerial view of that property and outlined where things are going to be that you can see, or some kind of a drone, something. I mean, that's bound to have gone that far along. That would be interesting to see where things are going to be
Cool.
or plan to be.
Okay, so we have 4 other topics here on our consideration list. What I was hearing a little bit is that this would be this idea of whatever that event with the city ends up being, it'd be great to partner for the sake of that as much as regardless, just the topic and everything. I think it is nice to say we're tying into the 250th anniversary somehow, even though we're not a Revolutionary War location by any means, et cetera. But what would you all think about us going ahead and including this in whatever fashion it comes, if we can be a partner with the city on it?
So you're thinking, don't really count it as one of our program votes. We're just going to partner with them if they are open to it regardless. It's sort of an ancillary.
Well, I don't know. I would count it as one of our events. I just I'm thinking it's a one-time opportunity, right? That's coming because of the timing of the 250th year. So
And we don't have a date at this point, so the date is probably not up to us.
sure, yeah.
So
Are you wanting us to vote now on these remaining ones? Is that where we're headed?
Perhaps so. It's
I might
too much.
suggest we vote for 2 each. And the reason I say that, given the challenges trying to find Rod Heller, when I worked on this last time, I'm a little worried, even if we vote for that he'll fall apart. Maybe if we have a backup. So if everybody voted for 2 out of these remaining 4, it might help.
Okay, I'm all right with that. Let's do it. So you get 2 votes. Who wants Felix Grundy in there? One.
Yeah.
Okay. I only saw one hand. Is that correct? Okay.
Nope. 2.
Oh, 2. Oh, I didn't see you, Aaron. Sorry. Turn my head for a moment. Architectural history of Armfield cottages.
Yes.
Yes.
The 1,
Yes.
2, 3, 4. Yeah. Okay. And Dahlgren Mystery. I'm in on that one.
Yes.
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4. And John, you said yes?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And then the idea of whatever this city event might be with history of the cemeteries. That's one of mine. 1, 2, 3. Oops, excuse me. Okay, so we have 4 votes for architectural history, 5 votes for Dahlgren Mystery. So I recommend that I move that we put those 2 on our priority list, and then we can say if the city does this thing, we could see, can we go ahead and do that as well? Is that all right?
yeah.
Okay. So I'm putting them in order of number of votes here. Okay. So there we are. How's it look to y'all? I see a thumbs up from Aaron.
Looks good.
Yeah, it looks good. Ignorant question. I don't know what the mystery is. Could you talk a little bit more about what that is?
Well, I don't know either. He
That's a
said
mystery.
mesquite. And he said Mystique, and he's quite a scholar in Southern, everything Southern. And so if you wanted, I can find out more, but I can't do that right now. I
Well,
don't know
I
if
would
it's based.
venture.
I don't know if it's based on the book that Gower wrote, and then his own research, or what. So, but he called it Mystique, I think. And I just when I last saw him, we're old friends, and when I last saw him, I just thought he used to come over when he was a student at Swanee back in the late '60s. He would come over with Isabel Howell and open up Nanhaven, and got to know some folks at Beersheba, and then he's been coming over and hanging with some of my family and all for several years. And I just thought he that folks would enjoy his company for an afternoon.
Cool.
I would venture that if he's a good storyteller and it's about Dahlgren, then it's going to be good.
And yes, he'll make it. He is on the circuit. He's tied in. He lives over in Fayetteville, and the Lincoln County Historical Society. He's involved with all of those things over there. So he's yeah he
Thanks. I just didn't have any background. Thank you.
Yeah, that's helpful.
So,
I need to read that. I have not read that book. I have read another one that Larry passed on to me a while back that was a more succinct kind of look at Dahlgren, et cetera. But we'd probably all do well to look at the book as well.
yeah
We have copies at the museum if you need one.
Andrew, can I raise I just remember there, and I don't know anything. Bill Howell's never talked to me about any of this, but I just remember there being discussions at old board meetings about, Bill feeling very strongly about the Dahlgren Armfield situation and the history there. And was that just Bill? Was there a larger chorus of voices about that we may either need to let Eugene be aware of so he doesn't get ambushed, or will there be some pushback if we market this event? I really don't know the answer. I'm truly just pitching this out so we've got a sense of things and can anticipate. But does anybody know much about his reaction?
We've talked. We've had him for supper, and he's talked about it. It's part of his very passionate overview of the history with slavery and all of those issues, which we know with Armstead and Dahlgren and others. I don't know if it goes beyond Bill or not, but I mean, he's passionate about a lot of issues like that. And this is one that he was so passionate that he at that time wanted to try to get the street renamed a different name.
yeah I was aware of that.
I mean,
right.
Yeah. I think there are plenty of people that have interest in that, but there's also a lot of sensitivity about changing street names because a bunch of city people want to change them.
oh, sure. Yeah.
And
No,
and
I'm just
so
telling you that's what he said. Yeah.
I know I've spoken to him about just kind of dialing that back. He's been pushing me and my siblings to try to do a scan of the concrete parking pad next to the big red barn. Supposedly there might be slave graves there, and I'm against having it scanned because if they're found there, then we take on obligations that the state has about designating that area, and those obligations could change at any time well beyond my lifetime. We may have to erect some 10-foot high fence around it and declare a 200-foot buffer and tear down all the buildings nearby. I mean, that's not contemplated now, but there's no telling what can happen. So my take on that is we're not going to do any looking because we don't want to find something. And I feel a little bad taking that position, but we're trying to serve a current need of providing, the barn as a resource that can build bridges between local people and provide a venue for weddings and the eighth grade prom and all that kind of stuff. And I don't want to impact that mission for a mission that isn't going to change anything except piss off a lot of locals. So anyway, I'm just sharing that with this group so you know that that conversation has been going on, and My position is no. And for the reasons I just stated, and I think it kind of ties in with the Dahlgren the request to rename streets and things like that. It's a lovely, heartfelt idea, but not a good one for the community, certainly at this time.
Well,
But to,
most of the houses, the Armfield houses, were inhabited by enslavers.
Mhm.
I mean, it's
And
based on
probably
that.
built by slaves.
yeah, I mean, it's
That's
I mean,
history.
and
yeah.
it's
So
part of
we
the
don't,
history. So, we can't deny that, but, it's that is the way it is. I know John Cagle was one, there were local people involved with that, but there were, a lot of those houses, and, as Mrs. Armfield said, if we're going to move there, we have to take our people with us. So, that's the way that is.
Those are good points. And Bill has approached me a couple of times, especially when we've had guest speakers, and he's wanted to talk to the guest speaker ahead of time and be sure they were going to mention certain things. And I've told him, especially with the last one where Ivan Michelle and Joe Gray were talking about the South Cumberland Tourism Partnership, he was saying, well, are they going to talk about the history of slavery here? And I said, that's really not the point of this talk, Bill. Now, if you want to speak with them on your own, that's fine. But we're bringing them here to talk about where we are today and what that means for the culture and the community here for tourism to be encouraged and built, et cetera. So I've just had a hard time channeling when he wants to bring that into the conversation to where it makes sense. And also, this came up in some conversations with the Bishop Assembly folks who were getting pressure from the, the Methodist district to put signs up about these buildings were built by slaves, blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, we haven't done that because you show me a document that says that and something that, we know probably that's the case, right? But unless we can say, here's a record, then I have a hard time with that. So I've not tried to skirt it, but what can we say other than we believe that was the case, right? And there we are. So I'd happy for any advice you all have on dealing with that as it comes up. That's what
I'm
what
really
I've done.
interested in this history, and this speaker that Sanford knows sounds great. If we do this, are we opening up this can of worms again or ginning it up and we don't really want to because this is a challenging issue? Or I don't know. What is
I
everybody else?
recommend we see what the story is once Sanford has a chance to speak with Eugene, and what is the mystique, what is the mystery, maybe,
Yeah.
and perhaps it goes into a bigger picture of whatever
Maybe
Charles Dahlgren was
Eugene,
about.
maybe Eugene is fully prepared to speak to the, slave owning history or something in case that does come up or we run into issues.
Yeah, and we certainly wouldn't find out. We wouldn't want to learn that the purpose of his story is to talk about what a great guy he was, and about how
Yeah,
he treated his slaves so well. We don't want to get into that.
No.
But there
I
may be
know.
other part. I mean, we don't know what the mystery is or the mystique, and it could be quite interesting. And just
Mhm.
part of the story is slaves, and we can, as Sanford was saying, it's just the way it was, and we can accept that and talk about it. We don't have to glorify it or anything.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
Bill
so let
Howell
us
is
know
going to
what you
gadfly
find.
regardless.
Yeah.
I mean, it's part of who he is, and it's fine.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So we'll wait till you have an opportunity, Sanford, to get an overview of what that might be. And
Okay.
in the meantime, I'll pull what I have found on this other piece of the architectural history. And I think we may have some local uh, some folks that can help with filling in some blanks on that as well. And then does anybody want to take on conversation with anybody about the Savage Golf Park update? Be that Aaron or somebody mentioned Ned or somebody with the state, etc. Aaron's
Work
really
with
the
that.
only contact I have on that. Sorry.
I'll work with, and Sanford, I'll work with you or.
Yeah. And Aaron, I'll talk to you about that, but I'm in communication with Ned related to trails and trilliums right now.
Yeah,
And
good.
So that's going to be a big deal. It's getting bigger every year, I think. So there's going to be lots of folks in Beersheba that April, I think 10th, 11th weekend.
It is, yeah.
Last time we looked into this, the area kind of PR person for TDEC just deferred to Aaron Reed.
Okay.
Okay.
Just knowing that that's their usual response, but he may be able to bring in a developer or at least provide their site plan.
Yeah. I don't think
And
Ned
that-
has a role with
No.
the park itself, the expansion, but
And this is a sidebar, but Aaron, maybe you know about the I mean, could we tie in the not cuckoo, cuckolded
oh, the woodpecker?
woodpecker
Oh,
project?
Yeah, I
red
think
cockaded.
Thank
I
you.
think Aaron Reed would love to
Yeah.
tell that story and the fringeless white orchid, how they're trying to reestablish those. I mean,
Yeah,
those are
that's great.
initiatives in the park. We don't have to just focus on the tourism aspect.
Yeah, because
I
that's
think
a
we would
pretty
like to
big
talk about
deals.
conservation.
It's a very big deal. Yeah. It's like being a birder myself. I remember going with a TOS to look for sites for the red cockaded over in Catoosa, which is a big wilderness. And the fact that they're going to be reintroduced and have picked out Savage Gulf to do that it's getting noted nationally, really. I've seen some reports about that from birders around the country. So I think that, and then also the rare orchid that, so sort of a Savage Gulf Park update all around would be good, I think.
That is good. Cool.
I just want to say, I think Aaron, it might be good to lead with those two stories because I think Aaron gets asked about every 8 seconds about the park opening. He's probably tired of it. So, but fortunately, they are going to start. I think April 1 supposedly is the date that the construction crews are going to be there. So maybe he has a nice answer and it'll be easier to tell that story. But maybe start with the internals that Sanford was talking about.
Yeah.
That
And
might
if
be
I may
good. Yeah.
recommend, if you all speak with Aaron, let's aim if we go with our usual cadence, why don't we start with the May weekend, the Memorial Day weekend, to talk about that. And like you said, Sanford, perhaps we go to the community center, have a bigger space in case there are visuals, etc.
Right.
If that sounds okay. Especially if there's going to be work starting around that time, it'd be great to be on the forefront of, here's what's starting to go down. Yeah. Okay. Okay. And then I think once we know more about these other two things, we can talk about some dates. Uh, Sylvia, would you might be able to connect with Jean or whoever and see what's happening with this idea?
I just spoke with her. She has no idea yet.
She has no idea yet. Okay. Okay.
She
All
just
right.
brought it up 2 days ago, so she.
Got it. Okay. Well, keep us posted if you hear
Oh, well.
something. I need to connect with Jean on something else anyhow, so I may ask her as well. I'm going to jump us to our last thing, and I know we have just a few minutes, but Sylvia, Elizabeth, and I met last week to talk primarily about finance. And we've not really worked from a budget standpoint, to my knowledge, in a while. So we were looking at saying, okay, what has it been like? What are we spending on? What are we bringing in? And how do we project what that looks like going forward? Because we've had some changing factors, especially in the time that I've been in this role, as far as what our costs are and how much we may be able to depend on that automatically it comes our way versus really trying to generate revenue or be more aggressive about asking for donations. So, Elizabeth, Sylvia, jump in. I'm just going to try to do this kind of succinctly. What you see on the left column is from 2025, the areas we were spending in. So I'm calling them categories. So we, of course, we are getting money back from when we sell books and cards at the market, when we sell them at the Arts and Crafts Fair, and when Amazon sells our books, there's a certain amount that comes back to us, and John's looking at how that gets equated because it's not like black and white all the time. And then we get ad hoc donations. We get some donations specific for things like the scholarship, like some of you have done. We get some people that say, I want a life membership. So that comes in basically a donation. And then we have some people who give what we call our memorial plaques. And if you're not familiar with those, in the museum, we have a board that has small plaques, and people can say, I want to recognize or honor or put something in memory, and it has their name on it from that individual. Those are small amounts. It's $25 right now to give one of those small plaques. So we don't get a lot in that regard, but it is a source of income in that way. We have 2 CDs. One is dedicated to the museum fund, and the other is our general one. And there is compound interest annually on those. And then we have small interest on the checking account itself. From an expense perspective, we spend money. There's small things like the safe deposit box is $15 a year. So it's not a biggie, but it is one thing that we pay for. The electricity for the museum is a monthly cost. We pay Sharon when she opens the museum between May and October. We've been giving an honorarium in the last year to our speakers, and that's $100 a time. Sometimes they take it, sometimes they say, no, give it to another organization, and we do that for them. And then when we do go to the community center or the assembly, they do charge us a rental fee, whereas Grace Chapel, there's no fee. I know that's a question, should we keep doing that? But I think it's nice to move into our community in different ways personally, but that's what that costs. We pay for pest control for the museum. We started that last year. Of course, we pay out our scholarship award. And we've had the barn dances, which has significant food and beverage and entertainment cost. And then when we go to print more books that John has been helping us with, we pay Amazon to do the printing in order for us to then have those to sell. Those are the categories of money. And as you can see, we took in less than we spent last year, a little bit. Now, these are very general numbers. Sylvia's got the exact numbers. We just didn't want to go into a lot of detail today, but it's been kind of even, but now we've got some changing factors. We had some things paid for in barn dance, which we don't have now. So we have to work at how do we make that up. So in 2026, we also expect that we're going to try to sell some different stuff. And so we talked about a couple ideas that we're going to just do a little test of, and then we can talk as a board about, do we want to go whole hog on it? So we're going to give that a shot and see if that's a beneficial revenue generating thing. I've been doing a lot of research on grants. There are 4 that I believe we specifically would be very eligible for, especially if we do find ourselves doing improvements to the museum building, because that's the kind of thing they're specifically related to. We're trying to increase our book sale prices because we've not done that in years. So I was talking to John the other day, and we'll go ahead and have some more conversation about how much we would raise those. We don't want them to be unreasonable, but everybody that's selling our books otherwise is selling them for much more than we do. And then we were talking about, why don't we make our sale items available at our programs and perhaps even at the barn dance in the back at a table, have our books and anything else we're selling available, just in case that's a different audience that wouldn't see them otherwise. So we're going to see if we can encourage more sales that way. From the expense side, it will cost some money to make any items we go to sell. And we've talked about the need to increase our marketing. So perhaps posters instead of flyers, things like that might cost a little more. If we get into the business of renovating the museum building, that's a big cost. There's a fund for it, and that would cover the bulk of that, but we just need to see how that works out. We need to reprint the Tate book. We only have a very few copies left, so John and I had a conversation about options on that, and once we figure out the best way to go about it, we'll do that, but that will cost money to produce. And then going into our new website, which you know about from before today. And one thing that we may need to do, our tent is in really bad shape. It was a real problem this year trying to keep water out of the place we were in, the arts and crafts fair. But the question is, do we buy one? Because right now that's the one time of year we use it, and you can rent those things for nothing. Or do we think we might use a tent more somewhere else, like have a tent up for another occasion during the year and for people can come and talk to us and buy stuff or whatever. So that's a decision to be made. So I know that's very quick. Let me just ask if there are questions about what kinds of things we're talking about here that are being sold or received in terms of income and expense. So Sylvia, Elizabeth, anything else to say on that at the moment? No. Okay. So we just want you to be more aware of what's happening with money. So obviously we've got to make sure we can cover our expenses. We do have that CD, which holds about 50 some thousand, but we're trying to not say, let's go start pulling our funds from there. As far as the weekday, gosh, I can't talk, the day-to-day annual expenses, if you will. So are there ways we can be either better about managing the money we do receive or more assertive about requesting for sponsorship, donations, or just spending in a different fashion? Yeah. So we'll come back once we do a little bit more with this because I know we have a number of ideas about ways we might change how we go about some of our expenditures and or ways to gather income. We just didn't want to get into the weeds too much on that today, just to give you an insight on where we are. Yeah. Okay. All quiet. When we talk about money, everybody gets quiet. So
You broke up in between, so I think a part of your what you just said nobody heard.
oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Some,
Um, well, bottom line, we just want to give you a sense of the categories of spending and income that we do have, and then we need to make some decisions. How do we even this out a bit, right, as we go forward? And we have some ideas about where we might spend less, as well as how we might generate more revenue from these various options. So we'll come back on those with some proposals for board approval, if that makes sense. Yeah. Okay. All right. That's all I know. Anything else anyone wants to mention? This is the view from our place.
Ah, beautiful.
Yeah, I love it when the clouds or when the mist gathers in the valley there. It's really pretty. Okay. Well, listen, thank you all very much. Appreciate it. Good meeting. We got through quite a bit. So, best wishes as you continue to start your 2026. I hope it's started pretty well so far and stay well. And I'll follow up with some of the information we said we'd continue to work on. Yeah.
And our next meeting, if you remind me.
It is March 24,
Okay.
back in the evening, unless we find someone's in Europe or somewhere. Yeah. Okay.
Right.
All right.
Well, thank you. Thank you
Thank
for
you all.
all your work.
Thank you, everybody.
Take
Thank you.
care.
Have a
See you.
great day.
Thank you.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks.